The Forgotten Warning. The council chamber of the Galactic Assembly floated in the void between stars, a massive structure built from crystallized energy and ancient metals. Inside its transparent walls, representatives from 47 different species gathered for their monthly session. The chamber had witnessed countless debates over the past 3,000 years, but nothing could have prepared its occupants for what was about to unfold. Chancellor Vorin, a tall being with silver skin and 3 eyes arranged in a triangle on his face, called the session to order. His species, the Telvar, had maintained peace across the galaxy for generations through careful diplomacy and strict adherence to established laws. Today's agenda seemed routine: trade disputes, colony expansion permits, and resource allocation debates, the kind of business that kept civilization running smoothly. In the archives deep below the chamber, a young Keltharian researcher named Zix was having a very different kind of day. She had been assigned the tedious task of cataloging ancient data cores that had been sitting untouched for millennia. Her forearms moved efficiently across the dusty storage units, scanning each one with practiced ease. The Keltharians were known throughout the galaxy for their dedication to knowledge and their exceptional memory. Zix took pride in her work even when it seemed meaningless. The data core she picked up next looked different from the others. Its surface was covered in symbols she had never seen before, and it pulsed with a faint energy signature that made her sensory tendrils tingle. She carried it to her workstation and carefully connected it to the translation matrix. The device hummed and clicked as it worked to decode the ancient information. What appeared on her screen made Zix freeze in place. The file was marked with the highest security classification, one that predated the current Galactic Assembly by at least 2,000 years. The heading read, Species Containment Protocol Humanity, Final Warning to Future Generations. Zix read through the document with growing alarm. According to the records, humans had once been part of the galactic community. They came from a planet called Earth, located in what the ancient texts called the Sol system. The descriptions of humans painted them as a contradiction. They were capable of profound compassion and creativity, but also possessed a capacity for violence and innovation that terrified the other species. The document detailed how humanity had developed faster than any species in recorded history. In just 500 years after achieving space travel, they had colonized dozens of systems and developed technologies that challenged the understanding of established science. Their ships moved in ways that should have been impossible. Their weapons utilized principles that other species had dismissed as theoretical fantasies. Most disturbing of all, humans seemed to thrive in conditions that would destroy other civilizations. A coalition of ancient powers had made a decision. They determined that humanity posed an existential threat to galactic stability. Rather than wage a war they might not win, they chose containment. Using technology that no longer existed, they erected barriers around the Sol system, trapping humanity in their home territory. The barriers were designed to be invisible and impenetrable, preventing any travel in or out. To the rest of the galaxy, humanity simply vanished. Within a few generations, they became a myth, then a legend, then forgotten entirely. The document concluded with a chilling warning. Should these barriers ever fail, should humanity ever escape their containment, future generations must understand what they face. Humans do not forget, they do not forgive easily, and they will have had centuries to prepare for their return. If you are reading this and the barriers have fallen, pray that humans have changed. Because if they have not, the galaxy will burn. Zix's hands trembled as she reached for the communication panel. This information needed to reach the council immediately. But before she could activate the transmitter, every alarm in the facility began screaming at once. Red emergency lights flooded the archives, and an automated voice announced, "Unidentified vessels detected at the galactic perimeter. All personnel report to emergency stations." In the council chamber above, chaos erupted. Chancellor Vorin's middle eye widened as sensor data flooded the main display. Ships were appearing at the edge of monitored space, emerging from jump points that should not have existed in those coordinates. The vessels were unlike anything in the Assembly's databases. Their design was aggressive and elegant at once, all sharp angles and smooth curves that suggested both artistry and deadly purpose. Admiral Kresh, the military commander of the Assembly fleet, stood from his seat among the representatives. The Draknor warrior's scales shifted from blue to deep red, a sign of agitation in his species. Those ships are using jump technology we cannot replicate. Our sensors cannot penetrate their hulls. They are just sitting there, making no hostile moves but also not responding to our hails. Ambassador Lyra of the Peaceful Shimmer Collective raised her translucent hand. Perhaps they are explorers from beyond our borders. We should approach with friendship, not suspicion. The galaxy is vast. It is possible we have simply encountered a new civilization. Before anyone could respond, every communication device in the chamber activated simultaneously. A transmission came through, overriding all security protocols and broadcasting on every frequency the assembly used. The image that appeared showed the interior of an alien bridge. The beings operating the stations were bipedal, with smooth skin ranging from pale to deep brown. They had two forward-facing eyes that marked them as predatory species, and their movements carried a confidence that made even the Draknor admiral uncomfortable. One of them stepped forward, a female with dark hair pulled back in a functional style. She wore a uniform of deep blue with silver insignia that meant nothing to the assembled species. When she spoke, the translation matrix worked perfectly, rendering her words in every language simultaneously. Greetings to the Galactic Assembly. My name is Captain Elena Vasquez of the Terran Exploration Fleet. We represent humanity, and we have come a very long way to have this conversation. The chamber fell into stunned silence. Chancellor Voran's three eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of deep confusion in Telvar body language. Humanity? That is impossible. Humans are a myth, a story told to children about a species that never truly existed. Captain Vasquez smiled, though the expression held little warmth. We are very real, Chancellor, and we have been waiting a very long time for this moment. 5,000 years ago, your predecessors imprisoned us behind barriers that prevented us from leaving our home system. They feared what we might become, so they locked us away and told the rest of the galaxy we never existed. Ambassador Lyra's glow dimmed with concern. If this is true, if your species was truly wronged in such a way, why reveal yourselves now? And why come with a fleet of warships? The human captain's expression softened slightly. These are exploration vessels, Ambassador. They may look military to you, but that is simply how we build our ships. As for why we are here now, the answer is simple. The barriers that contained us finally degraded enough for us to break through. It took us 3,000 years of constant work, studying the barrier technology, developing new sciences, and preparing for the day we could rejoin the galaxy. We are here because we refuse to remain prisoners for crimes we never committed. Admiral Kresh leaned forward, his warrior instincts fully engaged. Your ships possess technology far beyond our capabilities. You could have attacked immediately upon breaking free. Why negotiate? Why reveal yourselves at all? You could have simply taken whatever you wanted. Captain Vasquez nodded as if she had expected the question, because we are not the monsters your ancestors feared we would become. Yes, we spent 5,000 years trapped and isolated. Yes, we remembered the injustice done to us, but we also had time to think about what kind of species we wanted to be. We could choose revenge, or we could choose something better. We chose to give you a chance to be better than those who came before you. At that moment, Zix burst into the council chamber, clutching the ancient data core. Security officers moved to intercept her, but Chancellor Voran held up a hand. The young researcher's obvious distress and the data core in her hands were too significant to ignore. She rushed to the central podium and connected the core to the main display. The ancient warning document appeared for all to see. As the assembled representatives read the words written by their distant ancestors, a collective sense of shame and fear spread through the chamber. They were reading about atrocities committed in the name of galactic security, about a civilization imprisoned not for what they had done, but for what others feared they might do. Captain Vasquez watched as the aliens processed this information. You see now, your history books forgot us, but we never forgot. Every human child learns about the betrayal, about the day the stars were stolen from us. We built monuments to remember. We wrote songs and stories. We never let ourselves forget what was done to us, and we never stopped working toward freedom. Chancellor Voran stood, his three eyes focused intently on the human captain. What happens now? You have superior technology and legitimate grievances. You could destroy us, conquer our worlds, take everything we have built. Is that why you have come? The human captain was quiet for a long moment before responding. No, Chancellor. We have come because we detected something your sensors cannot. There is a threat coming from outside this galaxy. Something that will arrive in approximately 70 years. We call them the Devourers, and they consume entire civilizations. We detected their approach decades ago and have been preparing, but we cannot face them alone. No single species can. She paused, letting her words sink in. We had a choice to make. We could let the Devourers consume you as punishment for what your ancestors did to us, or we could warn you and offer to help you prepare. We chose to help. Not because you deserve it, but because that is who we have decided to be. We are not the fearful, vengeful beings your ancestors imagined. We are better than that. Admiral Kresh studied the human captain with newfound respect. You would defend the descendants of those who imprisoned you? We would defend sapient life, Captain Vasquez replied. All sapient life. That includes you, even with our complicated history. But we will not be your servants or your weapons. We will be your equals and your partners. Or we will prepare to face the Devourers on our own. The choice is yours. The council chamber erupted in debate. Some representatives argued for immediate acceptance of humanity's offer. Others demanded caution, suspicious of beings who had been isolated for millennia. A few even suggested that the Devourer threat might be a deception designed to manipulate the assembly. Chancellor Voren called for order, his voice cutting through the chaos. This is perhaps the most important decision this assembly has ever faced. We need time to verify Captain Vasquez's claims about this external threat. We need to consult with our respective governments, and we need to understand what humanity truly wants from this partnership. Captain Vasquez nodded. We understand. We have waited 5,000 years. We can wait a bit longer, but not too long, Chancellor. The Devourers do not pause for anyone's convenience. We will remain at these coordinates for 30 of your days. After that, we will assume you have made your choice and we will prepare accordingly. The transmission ended, leaving the assembled representatives staring at empty screens. The galaxy had just become far more complicated than anyone had imagined. Humanity was real. They were powerful. And they were offering a chance at redemption that no one had expected. Zik stood beside the podium, still holding the ancient data core. She looked at Chancellor Voren and spoke softly. There are more cores in the archives. Thousands of them. If one contained information about humanity, what else have we forgotten? What other truths have been buried and lost? The Chancellor's three eyes met hers, and she saw genuine fear there for the first time. Find out, he said quietly. Find out everything. Because I suspect humanity is only the first surprise the past has left for us. As the council chamber slowly emptied, with representatives rushing to contact their homeworlds, a single thought dominated every mind present. The legends were real, the myths had returned, and nothing would ever be the same again. When legends become reality, the 30 days passed like a countdown to an uncertain future. Throughout the Galactic Assembly's territory, governments debated behind closed doors while their citizens consumed every piece of information about humanity that researchers could uncover. The archives yielded more secrets with each passing day. Zix and her team worked without rest, cataloging thousands of forgotten data cores that painted a picture of a galaxy very different from the one they knew. The ancient records revealed that humanity had not been aggressive conquerors, as some feared. Instead, they had been enthusiastic traders and explorers who approached first contact with genuine curiosity and openness. Their crime had been progress. They developed too quickly, asked too many questions, and refused to accept that certain scientific barriers were impossible to overcome. The coalition that imprisoned them had acted not out of self-defense but out of fear of being surpassed. Chancellor Voren spent sleepless nights reviewing the evidence. His species valued justice above all else, and the injustice done to humanity weighed heavily on his conscience. But he also had to consider the present. Captain Vasquez had mentioned a threat called the Devourers, but the Assembly's best sensors detected nothing unusual at the galactic rim. Some of his advisors suggested the whole thing might be an elaborate deception to gain humanity's entry into galactic society. Admiral Kresh took a different approach. He ordered his fleets to observe the human vessels from a distance, studying their movements and capabilities. What his officers reported back troubled him deeply. The human ships moved with a precision that suggested either perfect coordination or artificial intelligence far beyond anything the Assembly possessed. Their energy signatures indicated power generation methods that violated understood principles of physics, and on the few occasions when human fighters launched for what appeared to be training exercises, they performed maneuvers that would have killed any known species through sheer gravitational force. Ambassador Lyra of the Shimmer Collective became humanity's most vocal advocate. She argued passionately in the council chamber that refusing the human offer would be both morally wrong and strategically foolish. "We have been given a chance to right an ancient wrong," she declared, her translucent form glowing with intensity. "More than that, we have been offered friendship by beings who have every reason to be our enemies. How can we call ourselves civilized if we reject such grace?" But not everyone agreed. Senator Throck of the Granite Clans, a species known for their conservative views and long memories, stood firm in opposition. "These humans appear friendly now, but they have had 5,000 years to plan their revenge. This devourer threat could be a fabrication designed to make us dependent on their protection. Once we allow them into our territory, once we share our resources and our knowledge, what prevents them from turning their superior weapons against us?" The debate raged on, but time continued its relentless march. On the 28th day, everything changed. The first distress call came from a mining colony on the edge of assembly space. The transmission was garbled and brief, cut off mid-sentence by interference that made no sense to the communications officers who received it. Then another colony went silent. Then another. Within 6 hours, 12 separate outposts had stopped responding to hails. Admiral Kresh mobilized the nearest battle group to investigate. The ships arrived at the first silent colony to find something that would haunt their crews for the rest of their lives. The colony was still there, physically intact but completely empty. Every living being had vanished without a trace. Buildings stood undamaged. Equipment remained powered on. Meals sat half-eaten in dining facilities. But not a single colonist could be found. The investigation team discovered something else. At the edge of the system, space itself seemed wrong. Sensors detected a distortion that hurt to look at, as if reality had been torn open and something else showed through the gap. The distortion was growing, slowly but measurably, expanding outward from a point that had not existed an hour before. Admiral Kresh sent the data back to the council chamber with a priority override. Chancellor Vorin and the assembled representatives watched in horror as the recordings played. They saw the empty colony. They saw the growing distortion. And they saw what emerged from it. The being defied description. It existed partially in normal space and partially in dimensions that biological eyes could not properly perceive. Where it moved, matter simply ceased to exist, not destroyed but erased as if it had never been. The recording showed it approaching the colony's outer structures. As it touched the buildings, they faded from existence without sound or explosion. They simply stopped being. The transmission from Admiral Kresh's flagship was terse and terrified. "This matches descriptions in the human warning. The devourers are real. They are here. And our weapons do nothing to them. We need help immediately." Chancellor Vorin did not hesitate. He opened a direct communication channel to the human fleet still waiting at the designated coordinates. Captain Vasquez appeared on screen and her expression told him she already knew what had happened. "Your sensors detected them before ours did," Vorin said, not making it a question. "Yes, Chancellor. We have ships equipped with dimensional scanners positioned throughout your territory. We've been tracking 3 separate incursion points for the past week. We hoped they would not breach into normal space before you made your decision. But the devourers do not wait for anyone's convenience." Vorin's 3 eyes closed briefly, a gesture of acceptance among his people. "We need your help. I am formally requesting assistance from humanity on behalf of the Galactic Assembly. Whatever you need from us, whatever resources or cooperation you require, you have it." Captain Vasquez nodded. "We accept, Chancellor. Transmitting jump coordinates to your fleet commanders now. Our ships will arrive at the incursion points within the hour. We will need your vessels to evacuate any remaining civilians and establish a perimeter at a safe distance. Do not, under any circumstances, allow your weapons to fire at the devourers. Conventional energy weapons only make them stronger." The captain's image was replaced by tactical displays, showing the human fleet dividing into 3 groups. Each group consisted of ships far larger than anything in the Assembly's navy. They moved with purpose toward the incursion points, accelerating to speeds that should have been impossible. At the first incursion site, Admiral Kresh watched in awe as human vessels arrived in a flash of distorted space. They did not use traditional jump points, simply appearing where they needed to be. The lead ship was enormous, dwarfing even the Assembly's largest dreadnoughts. Its hull was covered in geometric patterns that seemed to shift and flow like liquid metal. A transmission came through to Kresh's flagship. "Admiral, this is Commander Marcus Webb of the Terran defense ship Indomitable. We are beginning containment procedures. Please pull your vessels back to a distance of at least 50,000 kilometers. What you are about to see may be difficult to understand." Kresh ordered his fleet to withdraw to the specified distance. From there, his sensors showed the human ships arranging themselves in a perfect sphere around the dimensional tear. Energy built between them. Not the familiar plasma or particle beams of standard weapons, but something else entirely. The sensors screamed warnings about space-time distortions and dimensional fractures, readings that should not have been possible. The human vessels fired simultaneously. Beams of pure white light connected them, forming a web of energy that enclosed the tear. The devourer entity that had been emerging thrashed against the containment, and reality itself seemed to scream at the contact. But the human weapons held firm. Slowly and possibly the tear began to close. The devourer fought against the process, but the humans maintained their formation with perfect precision. It took 3 hours. 3 hours of sustained energy output that would have drained an assembly dreadnought's power core in minutes. The human ships showed no signs of strain. When the tear finally sealed completely, the dimensional distortion fading to nothing, the human vessels broke formation and began scanning for any remaining anomalies. Commander Webb's transmission returned to Kresh's flagship. "First incursion point contained and sealed. No casualties on our side. We are detecting faint energy signatures from the absorbed colonists. There is a chance we can recover them, but it will require technology you do not yet possess. With your permission, we would like to attempt extraction." Kresh granted permission immediately. What he witnessed next would be reported to the Council as the moment he truly understood what humanity had become during their 5,000 years of isolation. The human ships deployed devices that looked like nothing in the Assembly's databases. They activated with a sound that existed more in the mind than in physical space. And slowly, incredibly, the missing colonists began to reappear. They materialized confused and terrified but alive. Every single one of them. The humans had not just defeated the devourer, they had rescued its victims from a fate that should have been permanent. Similar scenes played out at the other 2 incursion sites. Human ships arrived, contained the dimensional tiers and recovered the missing colonists. By the time the sun set on the 30th day, all 3 breaches had been sealed, and not a single life had been lost. In the council chamber, representatives watched the recordings in stunned silence. What they had witnessed was not just superior technology. It was a fundamental difference in how humans approached problems. Where other species saw impossible barriers, humans saw puzzles to be solved. Where others accepted limits, humans questioned whether those limits were real. Chancellor Voren stood to address the assembly. "We have seen the truth with our own eyes. Humanity saved us from a threat we did not even believe existed. They asked for nothing in return. They risked their own people to protect ours. The question before us is no longer whether we should accept their offer of partnership. The question is whether we are worthy of it." Ambassador Lyra's glow intensified with emotion. "We owe them a debt that can never be fully repaid. Our ancestors imprisoned them out of fear, and they responded by saving us from annihilation. This is not just about military alliance or technology sharing. This is about learning from a species that chose compassion over vengeance." Senator Throck, who had been humanity's strongest opponent, rose slowly from his seat. The old granite being's voice was heavy with emotion when he spoke. "I was wrong. I allowed ancient fears to cloud my judgment. These humans are not the threat our ancestors imagined. They are what we should aspire to become. I move that we formally apologize for the crimes committed against humanity and offer them full membership in the Galactic Assembly with all rights and privileges." The vote was unanimous. For the first time in the Assembly's 3,000-year history, every representative agreed on a major decision. Humanity would be welcomed not as guests or allies, but as equals and honored members of galactic society. Captain Vasquez received the news aboard her flagship, the Odyssey. She stood on the bridge surrounded by her crew, and for a moment she allowed herself to feel the weight of what they had accomplished. 5,000 years of isolation had ended not with war, but with reconciliation. Her species had proven themselves not through conquest, but through service. She opened a channel to Chancellor Voren. "We accept your offer, Chancellor, and we accept your apology, though I want to be clear that you personally bear no guilt for your ancestors' actions. What matters is not the mistakes of the past, but the choices we make today. Voren's three eyes focused intently on her image. Captain, I must ask. The technology you displayed today, the ability to seal dimensional rifts and recover victims from the Devourers, how long did it take your people to develop such capabilities? Vasquez smiled, and this time it reached her eyes. About 4,000 years, Chancellor. When you trap a species of explorers and scientists in a single star system, with nothing but time and determination, they find ways to break the laws of physics. We couldn't leave our prison, so we learned to manipulate the very fabric of space-time itself. It started as research into how the barriers worked. It ended with us understanding dimensions of reality that most species never imagine exist. She paused, her expression becoming more serious. But understand this, Chancellor. The threat is not over. What you saw today was just the beginning. The Devourers are coming in greater numbers, and they are far more powerful than the scouts we faced. We sealed 3 rifts, but our sensors detect 17 more forming throughout the galaxy. This is going to be a long fight, and we will need every species, every mind, every resource we can gather. Admiral Kresh, listening from his flagship, spoke up. Then we fight together. Humanity has proven their strength. Now let us prove that we can learn from them and become stronger ourselves. We may not have your dimensional technology yet, but we have numbers, resources, and determination. Together we will face whatever comes. In the weeks that followed, the galaxy transformed. Human advisors worked with assembly scientists, sharing knowledge that would have taken millennia to discover independently. Assembly worlds provided resources and manufacturing capabilities that allowed humanity to build more defensive platforms. Most importantly, the different species began to understand each other. The humans learned that the galaxy they returned to was not filled with villains who had consciously continued their imprisonment. Most species had never known humans existed at all. They were innocent of the crimes of their distant ancestors. This understanding helped heal wounds that might have festered forever. The assembly species learned that humans were not the fearsome monsters of ancient warnings. They were people who loved deeply, who grieved their losses, and who faced impossible challenges with stubborn optimism. They had spent 5,000 years preparing not for revenge, but for the day they could rejoin the stars as explorers and friends. Zix, the young researcher who had discovered the truth about humanity, received a special commendation from the Council. But more than that, she received an invitation to join a joint research team with human scientists studying the nature of the Devourer threat. It was an opportunity she accepted with enthusiasm, eager to learn from people who had turned imprisonment into unprecedented scientific achievement. On the flagship Odyssey, Captain Vasquez stood at the observation window, looking out at the assembled fleet. Human vessels flew in formation with ships from 47 different species. It was a sight her ancestors had dreamed of for generations, the dream that had kept humanity going through thousands of years of isolation. Commander Webb joined her at the window. Do you think we made the right choice, Captain? Revealing ourselves, helping them, joining their society? Vasquez considered the question carefully before answering. Our ancestors were imprisoned because others feared what we might become. We had a choice when we finally broke free. We could prove those fears justified, or we could prove them wrong. By choosing compassion over revenge, by offering help instead of demanding payment, we became something better than what we were. So yes, Commander, I think we made exactly the right choice. She turned from the window to face her bridge crew. But the real test is still ahead. The Devourers are coming, and when they arrive in force, we will face a battle unlike anything this galaxy has ever seen. We will need to be clever, brave, and united. Humanity alone could not win this fight. The Assembly alone could not win it either. But together, with every species contributing their unique strengths and perspectives, we have a chance. The crew nodded, understanding the magnitude of what lay ahead. They had revealed themselves to the galaxy not as conquerors or victims, but as partners in survival. The myths had become reality, and that reality was more complex, more dangerous, and more full of possibility than anyone had imagined. In the council chamber, Chancellor Voren activated a galactic broadcast that would reach every inhabited world in assembly space. His message was simple but profound. Citizens of the Galactic Assembly, today marks the beginning of a new era. We have been joined by a species we thought was legend. Humanity has returned to the stars, not as enemies but as friends and protectors. Together we face a threat that will test everything we are. but I have faith that together, we will prevail. The age of isolation is over. The age of unity has begun. Across thousands of worlds, billions of beings heard those words and felt something shift in their understanding of what was possible. The galaxy would never be the same. Humanity had arrived, bringing with them technologies born from imprisonment, wisdom earned through suffering, and a determination to make the future better than the past. The legends were real. The myths had returned, and the galaxy was ready to discover what came next.